YouTube and share it to everyone in the field so that you can share it with your leaders that are unable to join right now. Several things involving vehicles this week, and I want to make sure when I say YouTube clips, I'm going to send this link in an email response to this invite. And it's also always in the field leadership folder. You click on the link, it's going to take you to UPA field leadership on YouTube. It's going to show field leadership calls where I'll post that one. Fleet management has information on Fleet IO, and brief instructional clips are exactly that. Just a handful of things that we want to get that information out to y'all and put it in a way that you can share easily with your field team by texting it out to them. So those YouTube clips and field leadership toolbox, you want to make sure you use all the time. If you're saying, what are those? Where can I find those? Just email me. I'll take you directly to them and make sure that you have access to them all the time. Big thing that we want to emphasize in that YouTube video is the parking brake requirement. It is, if you are not in a brand new vehicle, we've had, we're supposed to use parking brake at all times. But in our current vehicles, as we're looking into a recall issue that may affect some of our vehicles, you want to make sure that you put a parking brake on absolutely every single time that you stop. Big push to replace vehicles is already underway. Anthony Henson has been working nonstop to turn those vehicles over and get them out to you. If you're asked to replace your vehicle, we want to make sure that you are preparing your vehicles on site for their departure, getting them ready so that when we're coming to change those out, you have yours that are ready to go. That involves putting your head in your vehicle at least once a month. If you're delegating, you're getting your supervisors out there to do that work, and you're asking your techs to please pay attention. All that's great. We want you doing exactly that. But we also want every lead on every project once a month putting their head in every vehicle to make sure that we've got a sense of how what's going on in those vehicles. Return on investment of those vehicles is an important element in our ability to secure future vehicles. Increased safety features is almost completely a positive that we've got with these new vehicles. We've got better cameras, better sensors, responsiveness of the vehicle to things that are around it. The only slight downside of that is be aware if you are going through construction and those lines are clear to you as a human, but kind of unclear to the vehicle, make sure we've got a hold of that wheel as it attempts to correct us, make sure that we're in those lanes. That's something we found on one of our project sites. So it's almost complete upside with these vehicles that are coming out: sensors, cameras, sounds, vehicle response. But just make sure you're aware of that. Fleet IO continues to be rolled out to everyone. We're have hired a permanent staff member that's starting this week. You'll start to hear from that person in the coming weeks. They're going to be they're not distracted by any other thing. That is what they are doing, is managing Fleet IO. So a number of the questions that you have or anything that pops up while they're at the garage getting serviced, that person's going to be able to respond to you. And we'll also be reaching out to you to get feedback. When you go to the vendor, if your tech's taking it, if you're taking it, supervisor's taking it, tell the vendor we use Fleet IO, not UPA. And we have had some question of how to pronounce it. It's Fleet, then an I, then an O, Fleet IO. And that vendor, and if it's possible, if you can use Firestone, that vendor then submits a request through the app. The records that we're going to have for vehicle maintenance in this new system is going to mean everything to us. As we learn more about these vehicles, we learn about the tires, we learn about how many miles we're using on every project, and then of course we're turning those records in when we're selling the vehicle, and of course getting more back, which makes us better able to get vehicles for future projects, which ensures work for all of us. Another thing connected to Fleet IO is GeoTab. That rollout's ongoing. It's a lot of the vehicles that are coming from the operations center are going to have that set up. And then we're also sending field staff out to do installs on certain vehicles, certain projects that will be hardwired in and directly connected to Fleet IO. It will give you more information than you ever had on your projects, on your vehicles, on your techs, where they are. Once we learn it, it's total upside. And we know we've given you an awful lot of transition in the last 4 months. This change is, I'm sure, painful, as can be a hassle at times. The outcome is going to be excellent for all of us. Those of you that have dealt with GeoTab before know it's extreme upside, and everything we continue to learn about Fleet IO gives that same indication. Completely changing the subject. We want you to raise your hand if something doesn't seem right. If you have a management staff member or a tech that doesn't seem well for whatever reason, or you know exactly what the reason is, and they're not feeling well mentally, emotionally, physically, I want you to reach out to us, reach out to your project delivery manager, reach out to me as involved in leadership, so that, number one, we're aware of it. We want to support you, support your people. As I've continued to reach out to field staff and continue to build that relationship, I want to do that. So make sure you let us know that, number one. If you have a customer on a project team, you know, we have our field calls all the time. Sometimes they go on forever. Sometimes we just discuss a lot of details. And if there's a loose end or something like that, and then the customer reaches out to you directly and says, hey, I know we talked about it on the call, but wondering if if you can do this for me. We want to hear that as project delivery managers, senior field operations managers. We want to know if you're being pushed and kind of behind the scenes. It's happened on my projects multiple times where they've asked the field leader to do something that we all agreed we would not do, or I said we would not do. Had them directly contact the data manager and say, hey, I know we talked about it on the call, but I'm wondering if you can do this for me, you know, just as a favor. There are all kinds of contract details that we try to hammer out. And of course, there's unforeseen things that come up and we've got to sort through them. You're not out there on an island. We want to support you. And finally, if we describe a process and it does not make sense or doesn't work, of course, you've reached out a number of times about Fleet IO, about vehicle changeovers. We try to get those answers back to you as quickly as possible. Sometimes there's not an answer yet, but making sure that we acknowledge that. So raising your hand if something doesn't seem right is critically important. So that's everything that's on the list. We've got a number of people that are in the field, a number of our leaders that are out traveling, that are not able to be on the call. Any senior leader that's on the call, if there's something I have not mentioned, is there something I have not mentioned?
No, I'm good, Joe. It covered pretty much everything. Again, we just want to make sure that we're covering the GeoTab and the Fleet IO. As far as the Fleet IO and maintenance, I was kind of skeptical, guys, but it works. Anthony Henson has walked us through it, and it works very well.
Okay, appreciate that. Any questions on anything that I've discussed? Okay, that's a quick call. If you got something you don't necessarily want to ask in front of the entire group, I get that. Just reach out to me. We'll get that answer out to everyone. I'm going to mess with the invitation to this meeting again after this call. I don't want to confuse that with anyone. That list is always changing, always deleting people, always adding people. You'll see a new one come out that you'll probably have to approve. If you ever see a canceled invite beside this invite, that is from ages ago when Johnny Simmons canceled his calendar invite, and you've got to go in, you've got to select it, you got to hit remove from my calendar, or it'll show up every month and it'll show up canceled, and you'll think, well, I guess I thought the meeting was canceled. You got to click in there and click remove from my calendar so that you'll see the one from me. So I won't keep you. Or Adrian, see your hand up.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Well, hope
Um,
you are.
yes, I am. I am. So, as far as tracking the technicians, how are we doing that now?
So you're going to be able to see a number of things in Fleet.io, and as GeoTab is connected and ready, we're going to make sure that we get both of those settled, and we'll be able to send out either a video or have another conference to describe exactly how to do that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Okay, well, we appreciate what y'all are doing out there. If you have anything that you want to reach out to me, I'll get that out to the field, and be sure and look out for the YouTube invite or YouTube link for this meeting to share with anyone that could not be on the call. Thank you, and have a great week, guys.
Thanks, guys.